So good evening and welcome to the Vanarama South Playoff Podcast. We have 6 people in here from teams in the playoffs, and we have our guest presenter for the night I'm going to hand over to now, and that's Scott from Truro, who, congratulations, won the league on Saturday. So well done, Scott.
Thank you, chaps, and thank you very much for having me back. What a day that was. Before we get into the main course of trying to predict the playoffs through the wisdom of crowds, I just wanted to have a quick 2 minutes on the weekend that's just been. Obviously, from my point of view, it ended in the most ideal fashions, although it certainly wasn't as easy as it looked. We had a big screen at the Truro Stadium with the Torquay score ticking along sort of every 5 minutes or so, and it just seemed whenever we looked across, they were putting another goal on their goals for, and I think it got to a +1 goal difference in the end. So, I mean, how was everybody's respective days? I'm assuming for the majority, once we'd gone 3-0 up in the first 5-10 minutes, other than Torquay, everybody kind of switched off. But Tom, I mean, how were things over in Hemel? Did you ever feel like you were going to do it?
When we got it back to 4-1, when it was 4-1 at Hemel and 4-1 at Truro, I thought, hang on, we've got a chance here. And then when St Albans scored, the atmosphere really picked up for a couple of minutes. But you spoiled all the fun, Scott. You spoiled it within the first 10 minutes. Like, we started a little bit late because there was a medical incident in the crowd. Thankfully, the person involved was okay. But by the time we kicked off, you guys were already 2-0 up, which kind of killed the momentum for us a little bit. But to be fair, we could have easily switched off and just played out a dull draw. But once we got the first goal, there was no doubt that we were going to get a second and we were going to get a third. I mean, it was just attack after attack after attack. We should have scored 6 or 7, which ironically probably wouldn't have been enough still with the way the results panned out. But it was a fantastic day nonetheless. It was a weird feeling for me because at no point did it feel like, yeah, it's disappointing to miss out on goal difference, but it didn't feel like a devastating, oh, we can't believe we've missed out. It was just a case of, okay, well, fair play to Truro. They've done their job and handled the day well, and we've done what we needed to do. We've got second place in the playoffs in front of over 2,000 fans at Hemel. We made one of the best atmospheres I can recall at a Torquay away day, and it was just so wonderful to see the reaction of everyone. The owners we had were in the balcony just across from the terrace to the side. I mean, they were getting us singing songs, and at the end they were all clapping us off, and it was just, I said we did a Goals Eye View recording yesterday, and I think I just said the whole day just showcased the very best of Torquay United Football Club. I'm so proud of everyone involved. I mean, just to be in this scenario, like I said in the last recording, is just good enough for me. And yeah, shame we didn't do it, but fair play to you guys down in Truro. And yeah, onwards with the playoffs.
And Barry, with that being the case, did you think that coming third then became very much the mission of the day, to try and make sure that you don't have anything to do this Tuesday, Wednesday with regards to the Eliminators?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think going into the day itself, we expected you to win. We expected probably, the main fans expected you to win, both to win above us. And as I said on the pod last week, I thought that everybody would win. It was the one week that I saw that I didn't think there'd be a lot of change at the top, and I was right. So I think we always knew that if we done our job, and we needed to score a couple of 3, obviously, just for the last game of the season. But we were pretty much cemented in as third, and if one of you two did slip up, we could nick second, which would have been nice to get the home draw. I mean, we're going to talk about the playoffs later, and I still think we get the home final, if I'm honest. So, sorry, Tom. Sorry.
Mind games have started.
You know it.
And jumping to Nigel a second. So, Maidstone have kind of slipped under the radar a little bit with regards to not being involved in the 6-way shootout that was the weekend. Do you feel that may be of benefit in some way, that you're coming into these playoffs slightly under the radar?
Yeah, I think so. It was a weird one really because we obviously know barring like a 8-goal swing, I think it was, Western Supermare weren't going to catch us, and obviously they had a tough fixture at Eastbourne anyway. So we knew it wasn't going to be, we were going to be seventh. So we was sort of preparing for that, and we've just sort of been able to sit back really and watch everyone else sort of slug it out. And what that has done is given us a chance to sort of get our players back. Sam Corney's been injured for on and off most of the season, and he's just had a run of games, and we're sort of nursing him through that. And one of our defenders as well, Harry Kipriano, who's been out for a long injury, so we've been able to give him minutes. And yeah, it's just sort of like watching it happen really, and just sitting back and watching sort of let everyone else sort of take points off of each other. So yeah, it's certainly one that we do feel like we're a little bit under the radar, because obviously all the talk about on the national media and where has been about the 6 teams sort of slugging it out, and you sort of kept within a game of each other, and it's been interesting.
Okay, and just before we go into the main event tonight, which is to try and talk through the playoffs, I hope you'll indulge me for a couple of minutes and try and talk about what it takes to survive in the National League. I'm particularly interested in what James and Harry have got to say as 2 teams that have recently experienced that. James, I think, is it right that Dorking had one season where you survived, one season where you came down to in total? So you've been both sides of the coin. So what would you say on and off the pitch are the things which a newly promoted club really need to get right?
Well, I mean, obviously on the pitch, you've got to get results. And I think you've got to continue your home form. I think that's so important that you kind of make your place as much of an imposing kind of, this is our ground, this is where we are going to try and get most of our points, and I think obviously your manager is going to be well versed in knowing that division. And I think you may well start to see the kind of the tactical tinkering in terms of the pragmatism, especially when you're going away from home. There may be games that you go to where you might see things from other fans. God, I wouldn't want to watch them every week and all this sort of thing, but you don't give a shit because you've just gone on the road somewhere and got a point, and that's what's most important. And then at home, you can look to have more possession and dominate matches and be a bit more expansive and things like that, especially slightly down that slope that you've got at your ground that sort of goes down towards that bottom end that you attacked second half against us. And I could see that day, I thought this is sort of going to be really difficult, especially when they've got that momentum and they're going that direction with a real head of steam sometimes in second half, with the fans right behind that goal and everything as well. So I think you really got to sort of like try and get a lot of points at home and then try and pick up where you can sort of points on the road, and then that's going to be massively important for you. And then off the pitch, it's just continuing to do all the things that you've been doing as a fan base, and just hope that all the locals still turn out to watch you at home. And I'm sure that you'll be well supported when you go away. And obviously, you're going to be much like Tom is at Torquay and a lot of those other clubs that we experienced at Dorking over the last few years. You get York fans there, and people say, "Oh, well done, you've made the massive journey down from York." And I know a York fan who lives in Dorking, so he's only got to go down the road. So, because of these big clubs, there's people exiled all over the country. You yourself. So that you'll still get massive support from those clubs when they come to you, but try and get as many as you can when you go away from home as well. And then you start to really see the connection between the club and the fans. So they'll really start to recognise who's going week in, week out, and coming over and thanking you and that sort of thing, And you may well get those silly accounts that say, "Oh, look, there was only 15 Truro fans here on a Tuesday night." Well, applaud them then. Don't mock them. Applaud those 15 fans that have gone there and stuff like that. Don't take the piss out of them, because if they've gone from Truro, that's fucking miles for some of these places. And I'm sure, being in the National League, you'll be able to attract quality players that you've already done so, and using the loan system as well. I think that's another thing that's really important for the playing staff, is using the loan system, bringing in players that have had that experience or that exposure for Football League clubs, and maybe youngsters from around that area that go into playing in the National League and just boost your squad so that you're not, when we were doing the first season in the National League, there were occasions where we only had 4 subs and things like that because it's a Tuesday night and we were part-time then and you couldn't get a full bench. So all of those kind of things are all part of it. And I think, and just enjoy it as well, just massively enjoy it, because you're going to be playing against some clubs that have got some real history and going up through those playoffs. There's still going to be some big clubs left in that division, and just enjoy it and really embrace it and kind of think, Christ, this, and take a moment to think, this is incredible who we're playing. We were fortunate that first season because Wrexham were in the league that year, Notts County, Chesterfield, Oldham, all these clubs and that National League was really strong. But, you get on a roll and you have a good run, you could really ruffle some feathers and punch some noses in that league as well and take some big scalps. So get me in as John Askey's assistant. That's what I'll say, Scott. I'll be right there. Just giving you the motivation for the whole season there.
So, Harry, I think Boreham spent the best part of a decade in that division. Is there anything else that you would add to that? The secret sauce that is success and survival for us?
Well, I think if you, off the pitch as well, your development of the club has to be really good. Over the last 10 years, the facilities have gotten significantly better. We've got a new stand, we've got new dressing rooms, a new bar, and then that's those from the bar. You break that revenue, you can invest in the team, and then you can get better players, obviously, and then you can push up the league, mate. And potentially, what we've done for quite a number of years in that league is get playoffs and then get close to promotion.
I like the sound of that. Another promotion race fueled by pints and pasties. I think we can all agree that would be a very good strategy to success. Okay. So moving around to what we all want to be talking about, which is the playoffs. The way this is going to work is we're all going to have our little say on it. If we end up with a 3-3 split, then I'll have the casting vote, and we'll see if through wisdom of crowds we can get to a playoff winner. So tomorrow night we have the Eliminator A, which is a big game, isn't it? It's Boreham versus Dorking. Harry, do you want to make the case for Boreham?
Well, we're the most informed team coming into the playoffs. We've won our last 5. We've scored 17 goals in those 5, and we've conceded few as well. And not sure about how Dorking are getting on. I think they're on a decent run as well. So, and at home, I think we're playing well. Obviously, last time we played Dorking, we didn't play well. We were in bad form as well. We had just lost to Weymouth. But this time, we're coming into the game with good form, and we're playing really well.
And James, the case for Dorking.
So, I personally don't think. I think momentum, form, and all that sort of thing is a bit of a myth. Playoffs. I think the line for the season ended at 5 o'clock on Saturday, and these are almost like mini cup competitions, and sort of straight shootout. It could. You could. It's funny, isn't it? You could be a National League side in 3 weeks' time, having played 500 minutes of football and won 2 penalty shootouts, or scored in extra time in a final, and be absolutely dead on your feet. You just don't know. We've got a decent record at Boreham Wood. I wouldn't read too much into our sort of form as the season closed out. I think we threw too many games away. We kind of plodded our way through into the playoffs in terms of a kind of almost like a belief that through that bad run and just drawing lots of games, we weren't going to win the league. And I think then it was a little bit about damage limitation for keeping players fit for this part of the season. Hence why on Saturday at home against Cheshire at half time, Mark made 4 subs. It just took off 4 players, Pryor, Charlie Carter, Josh Taylor, and one other, Jimmy Mewett, all came off at half time because he's just immediately thinking, well, we're going to be playing again on Tuesday night, so I'm going to save those 4 players. So yeah, I mean, we're good. We're good away from home. We're good at Boreham Wood, but it's going to be tough because, like Harry said, they're in form. There's no secret. Like your dad said it last week, Harry, and Luke Garrard said it today. There's been a change of formation at Boreham Wood sort of towards the end of the season, which seems to have absolutely sparked some sort of massive sort of like knock-on butterfly type effect, whereby banging in goals. So you shedded that Boreham Wood tag in the space of like 5 games. Like now the National League South entertainers scoring loads of goals and coming in rich form. So it could be a really good game, or it could be another game like similarly that we saw, Jacco, where it could just be really tense and played in midfield because neither team wants to make a mistake. Could end up going the distance. So I haven't really made the case there. I've massively sat on the fence because I never want to be like, yeah, we're going to win 3-4-0. It's going to be easy, because I'm absolutely shitting it, quite frankly, as well. So we'll see what happens.
I'll move to Tom now, because the winner of that big game has another game, a massive game at Torquay. Tom, where do you see this one?
I honestly can't pick a winner. Both sides have played some great stuff this season. This one, I have the feeling, is going to go all the way to penalties. I'm kind of selfishly hoping for that as well. Boreham Wood have been tough opponents this season. I think we've played out 2 draws. I think they got a last-minute equaliser down at Playmore earlier this year. Dorking, they play some wonderful football. They're really close affairs whenever they play us, and we've managed to get the double over the season. But again, as James said, form goes out, and all that goes out the window when it comes to playoffs. They are a lottery, aren't they? I mean, I was doing an article for Talky Talk earlier that'll come out tomorrow, and it's basically just going through the history of the playoffs at this level since they've changed the system. And being in second place doesn't necessarily give you full advantage in the playoffs. Braintree, who won it last year, had to go through 3 away games, and they all went to extra time. So it's an incredible feat for them. But for this game, it's going to be so tight. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals. If you ask who I think it will be Boreham Wood. I think. Sorry, James. I think just home advantage. I think they'll just nab it, but I know Dorking prefer playing away from home, playing on lovely pitches, which they're going to get at Boreham Wood. So it's going to be a really, really tight affair, and it wouldn't surprise me if it went either way, to be honest. But I think it will be Boreham Wood coming down to Torquay on Saturday, but wouldn't surprise me if it was Dorking.
I really liked you last week, Tom.
Sorry, James. Sorry.
Gone right off you now, mate. Chuck him out of the group, Barry.
Barry, on the other side because you're on the other side of the draw. I mean, where are you putting your money on this one?
I mean, I think it's going to be a difficult game. I think it's going to be a hard game for both sides, in honesty. But I see Dorking sneaking it, to be fair. I think what I've seen a lot of Boreham Wood this year, because we drew them in 2 cup competitions, so we played them 4 times. And I just see that even when they were playing well, I think that they've got players that can make mistakes, and they're mistakes that I just don't see in the Dorking side. And I think that Dorking have got a couple of players that just stand up at the right time to be counted. And I don't even think it matters if Boreham go in front. I think Dorking are still going to fight. I think Mark White seems to get them ready for these one-off games. He seems to, and it just seems to. And I think it's going to be a tight game, but I think I sneak. I mean, I've looked at all of them, and I think that probably Dorking will beat them.
Okay. Jacco, welcome to the pod, mate. Sorry to have kept you waiting for so
That's
long.
right, mate. No worries.
Where are you going on this one, bud?
I'm going Dorking. I go Dorking all the way for this one. We beat Boreham twice. I didn't think they were a great team when we played them twice. And I think Dorking are just a better footballing team than Boreham Wood, what I've seen of it. The only way I can see Boreham Wood winning it is if they keep Jason Pryor quiet. And, if you stop him heading any ball, you got a chance. But I just go for Dorking. I think Mark will get them ready for the game. You just said the pitch will suit them. It suits their style, suits the way they play. I think it's going to be Dorking.
Nigel, would you concur with that?
Yeah, probably, because I just think there's a lot of pressure on Boreham Wood to get promoted. I mean, they've obviously brought Luke Garrard back to get them promoted, and Danny Hunter's made no secret of the fact that they've got a budget and they've got a team, and that they want to get promoted. And Harry talked there about that run they've been on, but before that they came to Maidstone and we beat them 4-0. I mean, that was just like,
Yeah, we're awful. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it just seems to be, you look at their head-to-head record against the other teams in the playoffs, and it's probably the least impressive of all the other teams. And like everyone sort of said, Mark White's got a way of getting the players up for it. I think it's going to be close, and all the games are going to be close. I don't think there's going to be sort of like, anyone's going to sort of like put any 3 or 4-0 score lines in there, but it's just going to be, it's probably going to come down to like an individual mistake or, a moment of brilliance from either team, really. And, I think you can look at all the games across, throughout the playoff run, that's going to be the case. But yeah, I just think I would favour, if I was going to favour anyone, I would fancy Dorking.
Yeah, I would agree. Dorking were actually my pre-season favourites. I thought on the opening day they just looked like they could flip a switch at any point, and I don't know if that ever really happened this season, James, but there was just something just always underneath that I thought at any point you could catch fire, and I think in the spotlight that might be your time to shine. So with that being said, then that sets up a Torquay versus Dorking semi on Saturday. Now, Worthing versus Maidstone is the Eliminator B, which will be played out on Wednesday. Jacco, why are Worthing going to beat Maidstone?
I'm not sure. Maidstone is a funny one for us. They beat us quite convincingly early in the season at home, and then we beat them away at their place. So it's going to be a funny one. And I have to say, I've got a lot of respect for George. I think he's one of the most respectful managers. When we beat him last year in the semi-final, the first thing he did was shake hands with the manager. Then he walked around the whole ground, clapping the home crowd. Well, for me, that is special, is different. And one thing I hope for, and that's not for our game, for every single game, that we get some strong referees who are up to the job. Because too often this season we've seen referees for both teams absolutely being abysmal and making decisions what I don't understand. I think we could nick it against Maidstone just purely based on the fact we play at home. And we have got a few players now. We're not reliant on Danny Cashman, obviously he's injured, who can score goals. And Mo File seemed to found his shooting boots at the moment. He had another cracker on Saturday. He scored 3 like that this season. So I think Mo File might be the difference on Wednesday night.
Nigel?
Yeah, obviously I'm going to go for Maidstone. I just think George, and it proved it last year in our cup run, he's very good at getting the team up, and he gets the whole fan base, motivated for it. And we are going to go in numbers. I think we've already sold out our allocation. They only went on general sale for our fans at 7:00 this evening. I think they've already all been sold out. So, we're going to have a good back in there. And it's interesting. Jacco says there about Mo Farah, of course he was with us last year. So if any team's going to know how to sort of guard against that, is going to be Maidstone. You know, because we know his sort of strengths and weaknesses, and he actually scored a crucial goal for us last year in the playoffs against Averley. So again, it's something that, we have a lot of respect for, and I just think, Worthing's style of play, we sort of play on the front foot, and we struggle against the lesser teams. That's no disrespect to those teams, but we haven't really got that playmaker that's going to open up teams, and we can catch teams on the break, and we sort of play that high press sort of game. So, and we do have sort of a good record against Worthing. I mean, as Jacco said there, we beat them 2-0 early season down there. And I know they, had a lot of changes since then, but a lot of our fan base are sort of saying that it's come out that the Danny Cashman is not going to be available, and he kind of run the game really at our place. Not so long ago. I think it was sort of like end of January, beginning of February. We played him at home, and it was just 2-1, I believe, that day. But we was really on the front foot second half, and even Chris Hackett come out at the end of the game and said, it's one that he was really pleased that they got over the line, because we sort of put a lot of pressure on their goal to get the equaliser in the second half. So yeah, I just think our style of play sort of suits that sort of team that come and play, because say when we get teams that come and just put 10 men behind the ball and trying to get us to break them down, we just don't seem to have the answer to that. But a team that's going to go for it, we can catch teams on the counter attack. So I think it's going to be, again, like I said, it's just going to be coming down to a mistake and a moment of brilliance from one player, and I think that's going to be the difference.
Tom, you get the ball rolling from a neutral point of view. Where do you see this one going?
I think it's one where I think being at home will be the key. Having watched Worthing and Maidstone games this season, Worthing, they play some wonderful football. I think they're one of the best footballing sides I've certainly seen at Playmore and in the game at Woodside earlier this season. But Maidstone, I mean, our record against Maidstone is pretty terrible. So we know that there's a danger there that they could, they could easily turn up and put the show. I mean, they started really slow this season, didn't they? But they went on a really good run to get themselves in the mix, and then kind of tailed off a bit again. But yeah, the injuries to Cashford especially, that could be huge. He's such a good player at this level, and again, it's really hard. It's so difficult. I'm kind of on the fence of it, to be honest. But I think just because it's going to be at Worthing, I think home advantage is going to be the deciding factor. And again, it wouldn't surprise me if this one goes all the way as well. But this is also a game where I think there could be plenty of goals as well, because I think both teams play such good football. I think there's going to be chances of plenty in that one. And yeah, I think just Worthing on that one. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if Maidstone did nick it. But yeah, I'll stick with Worthing, mainly because they're only 15 minutes down the road, and I don't want Jacco to come down and go for me later if that does happen. So I'll go with Worthing.
Tom's got all 6 teams in the playoff final at this rate. You don't want to kill anyone off.
No.
And Barry, can you make a case for your rivals Worthing, or is it are you seeing Maidstone prevailing?
For me, I think I think I agree with Tom. I think there's going to be plenty of goals in the game. I think there's definitely going to be a lot of chances, and yeah, I see plenty of goals. But there's something else I see plenty of as well, because I think they're both sides are they're quite strong sides, and I actually see cards in the game as well, and I think that can help us. Obviously, come Sunday, which we're going to talk about in a bit, I expect. But I see cards in the game. I see goals, but I think probably Worthing will sneak it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was a Maidstone victory. I think this is probably, for me, out of all the playoff games I think will happen, I think this is the tightest game, and literally the one that is a flick of a coin. It could go either way. Someone will take the lead early. There'll be a goal early doors, I think. But like I say, I think it'll be a battle. I think it'll be a proper battle, which is why I was trying to get a ticket. But yeah, I just see Worthing just sneaking it, I think.
Harry?
Yeah, I can't see it. To be honest, I can't see anything but a Worthing win. They're the best team I've seen all season. They just dominated us both games for the whole game. They the attack they pose a good attacking threat. Or Maidstone do as well, but just see too much quality in that Worthing side. And I thought they'd probably win the league, but they just fell short and lost games they probably shouldn't have. But that might be in their heads. I don't know, but yeah, I can't see anything. But I think Worthing will win it. Yeah.
Well, I would have gone with Maidstone, but the jury's already spoken. I thought that Maidstone made us look really, really poor when they came down to Cornwall. Did us 2-0, and to be honest, it was like playing a higher league team. Thought you were really good on the day, but that was during the middle of a 20-odd game unbeaten run, I think, at the time. James, I mean, where would you have gone?
So everybody said kind of similar things that I would say. I do think that this could be quite a high scoring game. I think Worthing have got obviously a couple of the suspensions carried over for this, Jacco. So Sam Beard and Racine still suspended. It's got that stage of the season where everyone's recalled all their players that they've had out on loan, haven't they? So you've recalled a couple of players that you've had out on loan. I think Cashman's a massive loss. Both teams play quite high defensive lines as well, and you kind of play on the front foot. It could be one of those. It could be a quite an entertaining game. I thought, and Mark made this point as well, I thought Worthing's pitch was actually quite slow on that Monday. I don't know if that's something that you've kind of seen a bit of, Jacco. Like the 3G was not slow as ours, because ours is like playing in mud, but it was quite slow. It's quite grippy. Yours is pretty good, Barry. Yours, Nigel, is probably one of the best ones we played on all season. It's like lightning quick, really fast. See, both teams want to sort of like zip it about a little bit. I think Sam Corn coming back in, I really like him at Maidstone. I think he's a really good footballer. It could be a really entertaining, quite high scoring game, and I think Maidstone might just pip them. You know, I think sometimes the home advantage is a bit of because it's almost that expectation and that pressure sometimes on those teams that are at home, the big home support and getting behind them. I think that might have an effect for perhaps maybe even Torquay on Saturday. But I do think sometimes that can be a bit of a double-edged sword, because it can be pressure and expectation just as much as it's like trying to drive the team on and everything. So I think Maidstone might pip the Worthing on Wednesday night.
So we're now into the hypothetical. So Saturday, we have got Torquay, who are guaranteed to be there, but we've picked Dorking. Tom, if that was the case and you were up against Dorking, how does that tie feel to you?
Well, I'm just trying to recall the two games that we've had. So the one we had at Playmore was quite early into the season. Dorking had quite a few injuries at the time. And then the away game, again, very tight, but we managed to nick it late on. And I think it's a tough one for me, because, I really like Mark White. I think he's a cracking bloke. Huge respect for what he's done there down at Dorking and seeing the club grow and grow and grow. But I think that result, I don't know, I think it might have played on his mind a little bit. I was watching that Bunch of Amateurs episode that came out yesterday, the Torquay one, and just seemed to get a bit wound up more than I've seen him on those episodes. So to me, home advantage is going to play a big factor. We've already sold loads of tickets. I mean, I think that we've already sold out the first batch. So there's a new batch for non-season ticket holders coming out on Wednesday, and they'll go on Wednesday 100%. So we're going to be backed heavily. The pressure's on us. Of course it is, being the home team, finishing second. Ambitions are high. But I mean, as we showed at Hemel Hempstead, I know it was Hemel Hempstead, but to have 2,000 plus Torquay fans there in that last day scenario trying to outscore Truro, the lads handled that pressure brilliantly. And I've got no doubts that they're going to do the same at Playmore on Saturday. Cody Cook is finding his form once again. He started really well, has been battered throughout the winter, came back from injury, and he's just found the goals. Jordan Young is a huge part of the team. A lot of the goals, as I said in the last episode, come through him. And defensively, we seem really, really good. Dreyer. The only injury concern that we've got at the minute is Jordan Dyer. There's an outside chance that he'll be available on Saturday, but that's still to be determined. So that's a big blow at the back. But other than that, the lads are ready for it. I mean, there was a tint of disappointment on full time on Saturday, but they quickly rallied. The fans rallied behind them, and they know they're going to be back heavily. And we've got to make play more, a very intimidating place to go. But whether it's Dorking, whether it's Boreham Wood, they're two fantastic footballing clubs who've got great players, and it's going to be a very, very tight game whoever we face. But yeah, huge respect for Dorking, and if it is to be them, I may the best team win as far as I'm concerned. It should be a great afternoon and a great game of football.
And James, in this scenario, you're going away to Plainmoor. Do you think it's one that the lads will see?
Yeah. So if it is us, I don't think it would phase any of our players. We've got plenty of experience in there that played in front of big crowds and played in big grounds and league footballers and stuff like that. I think it's one that Mark would absolutely revel in. I think, like Tom said, that game early in the season, that your midfield lad stuck one in the top corner, didn't he, from about 25 yards out on his weaker foot. But we definitely had a lot of chances in the second half to have come away with a point. That was when Barry Fuller missed a point-blank header right at the very end, where he should have equalised. But obviously that lineup that took the field that day would probably be completely different should we be there Saturday, since a lot of the players have subsequently come and gone since then, and a few that have come in and stuff like that. I think it would suit us, but obviously Torquay just training and doing all the prep and everything and getting ready for that game. You don't know, sometimes you can take that. Sometimes I think some clubs are better when they have the Saturday. You do get that little bit of kind of on that roll. That's where you can build that momentum, I suppose, because you know that you've got that next game and everything, and they'll go down on the Friday if that was the case as well, and give themselves the best opportunity. But like Tom said, it would be a really good game and a really good atmosphere, but it's all hypothetical really, and we have to get through tomorrow night, which is going to be very tough, and you never know what's going to happen or what could happen. Us or Boreham Wood could get a terrible injury or a sending off or something, and one of your key players misses out, and Torquay don't have that really, because they're just managing that time between now and Saturday. So who knows? I think we're just one step at a time and get through tomorrow if we can, really.
Barry and Jacco, this becomes a question of almost who wouldn't you want to face in the final. So what's Barry first, and what's your take on a potential Torquay Dorking semi here?
So like I said, I mean, earlier on, I think we get the home draw in the final. It's how I've read it so far. I mean, Dorking beating Boreham Wood and a battle between the other two. But I think that when you look at Dorking at the moment, I think for me they're a side that are on. They play better with the momentum. And I actually think that, similar to what we said earlier about Braintree having to play 3 games away from home and winning it last year, I see the same in Dorking. I see the same. They've just, for me, we recently got beat 3-1 there. We weren't on form that day. But they have got a couple of players that I think can just turn it on, and I think Torquay are a very good side, and I think again this is going to be another battle. I think let's be fair, the teams are, we're 2 or 3 points between all of us. We're not including you, Nigel. That's not, but they're all going to be battles, right? These are all going to be hard games of football, and I just think that I just see Dorking going down there and turning you over time, and that's not. I think it'd be a great game of football, but I just think that Dorking work well with momentum, and if they go and beat Boreham Wood on Tuesday night and do go down there, they'll be full of confidence going into that game. And similar to what James said on the pod last week, when you get a full ground, it's who freezes. And on these one-off games, if you freeze for 5 or 10 minutes, that can be long enough for the opposition to capitalise. And I just think that So yeah, I fancy Dorking will beat Torquay down there.
Jacco, where's your head on this one?
It's a difficult one, this for me. I think Torquay, yeah, it's great. You sell out, you've got lots of people there, but how much pressure will there be on the team? Because when was the last time Torquay had such a home ground behind them? And you're playing Dorking, you know. Quite selfishly, I like Dorking to win because that means we got a semi, potentially the final at home if we beat Eastbourne, if we go through. But the thing is, though, we finished in the tops. Everybody finished in the top 7, you know, 2 to 7, and you have to beat the team in front of you. If you know, if you want to win it, you have to beat anybody in front of you. You can't pick and choose. You know, it's I don't know who I'd rather play. Do I play Dorking or Torquay? I don't know. It's either it's 6 of this, half of this, not for me. I don't know who I'd rather play. That's my honest answer. You know, they both got qualities and they both can be beaten. So it's yeah.
You to come up with a name because that's the mathematics of this whole this whole. So if you can help me out with that one or the other,
There's no fence here.
I
Yeah.
understand the assignment, mate.
Okay, I'll go for Dorking then. Sorry.
Now we're probably coming to 2 people that couldn't care less, seeing as they've already been voted out. But Harry, Torquay or Dorking, mate?
It's a difficult one, but I think Torquay will win it. I think they've got. I don't know how many tickets they've got. Their sets they've sold, but I think that crowd can really help them win. I think Dorking. I know if we win, we've got 800 tickets down at Torquay, but I assume that's the same for Dorking as well. But I just think that. Pardon?
Sorry, I think we have to give 15% of the total allocation.
So yeah, all I know is we've got 800 if we win tomorrow. I don't know how much that is, but yeah, I just think that crowd is going to be really good.
So I will allow Nigel to be kingmaker on this. I think that Torquay will beat Dorking. I don't like saying it as a Truro fan because obviously we're trying to manufacture a rivalry. But I actually think that going ahead, I need some more away games nearer to home. You know, and if that's not a reason to back a team, then what is? So I'm going to go Torquay, which makes it 3-3. So Nigel, kingmaker time. Who goes through to the final, Torquay or Dorking?
I've always said, I've had it in my mind for a while, probably since the beginning of the season, that I can just see a Maidstone Torquay final. I didn't expect Torquay to finish as high as what they did. I thought they might be sort of in around like the 3rd, 4th place, but I've always thought it would be Maidstone having to get past Torquay to progress, or whatever that game would be. It turns out it's going to have to be a final. So in that respect, I think that home crowd will be the deciding factor. I just think it's going to be. Again, you can see from both points, can't you? It's there's going to be a lot of pressure on it, and Paul Watton, he hasn't got the experience of what Mark White has got at the higher level, and on those one-off games, and they've been to them, Oldham and got results there last year, and it's essentially the same group of players because there's not that same sort of turnover of players as what Torquay have had this year. So they're going to all sort of know how each other plays. They're all bedded in. They're all sort of part of the system, and Mark White keeps going on about the Dorking way, and you've got players now performing to the best of their abilities, but I just think it's going to be that home crowd's just going to be the side. It probably will be after extra time. Hopefully it doesn't go for penalties. Really, I'd like to see a team win it in 90 minutes because I don't think that's ever a fair way to win a game in penalties. But again, if it does go to penalties, then that's going to be having that home advantage would sort of get Torquay across the line. So I'm going to go for Torquay.
Okay, then. So, by the slenderest of margins, we've got Torquay in the final, which.
Well, I'm going
would-
now then. See you later.
I don't want to go to Torquay for a final either. That's it. So I'm stopping the recording.
Right, let's go, Barry.
As you said, Barry, you've hoped to have had a home run throughout these playoffs. If that is the case, then that wouldn't happen. Torquay would have home advantage in the final. Moving on to your game against Worthing, then you guys have recently played, and I believe that was a draw. But where do you see your boys getting one over on the local rivals over 90 or 120 minutes?
I think Jacco will probably agree. I know Worthing went down to 10 men against us, but if they hadn't have had their keeper in goal, we would have won the league, because we would have won that game of football. And if Sam Beard wasn't such a good goalkeeper as well, we would have definitely won the league. But there you go. I think Worthing would have to come and really play well to beat us. But then this is playoff football. It's one game football, right? So as much as I sit here and say we're confident, there's always that danger. You lose an early goal and you're at it, right?
And Jacco, how are your boys going to do something that no other team's done this season in the league? How are you going to go there and turn them over?
Well, Barry referred to the last game at Easter Monday. He forgot to mention we played with 10 men and took the lead. And I'm still convinced if we had 11 men on the pitch, we would have beaten them. And I still believe that. Records are there to be broken. So they have to lose at home one day. So let it be the semi-final on Sunday. And also, I think we can beat them. I don't think Eastbourne are the better team than us. And we're not, I think it's two teams who are quite close. But, with 11, I know it was 2 draws at home we played 0-0 and away it was 1-1. But I still feel we can beat Eastbourne with 11 men on the pitch, and we should do.
Okay, so we're into the realms of the hypothetical again, Tom, with you. So looking ahead to the final, who do you see yourselves playing, Eastbourne or Worthing?
Oh God, I'm on the fence again here. Sussex Derby semi-finals. I mean, that's just got joyful chaos written all over it. That is another game that could have could be decided on who can keep 11 players on the pitch. I mean, there's already been prior for red cards, so the emotions of the day and everything. I think it's who handles that best. A bit like everyone's saying the crowds at Torquay. For Eastbourne, unbeaten at home all season, which is a fantastic achievement in itself. And Worthing, the style of football that they play. But I think, and I said it last time, if I had a choice of who I'd want it in the final, I probably would have said Eastbourne. So on that, and just on the fact that if Cashman still, is out for the playoffs, I have to give it I think I give it just to Eastbourne. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if that one goes all the way to penalties as well.
And Harry?
Difficult on it. I think Worthing just edge it, maybe even in extra time.
Right answer, Harry.
I know, obviously, Eastbourne are unbeaten at home, and I just think Worthing, they're just earning. On their day, they can just. I feel like they could just beat anyone, as they did against us both times. They would just. I don't know if that was like their best performance of the season, but against us, they were unreal. And if they perform like that, they could definitely beat Eastbourne.
And James, now I know that you're dying to get away, but if you could give us 30, 60 seconds
Yeah,
of content.
I don't care. I don't care, Scott, what happens. I don't care what happens. Both teams to lose. No. I think Eastbourne could win this one. I think obviously full-time team, perhaps that slight edge in terms of sort of fitness as it starts to come towards the end of the season, especially if Worthing a lot gets taken out of them. Their game against Maidstone, I think the teams, that's why they have these eliminators, isn't it? It can really drain those teams mentally and physically to come through these games tomorrow and Wednesday, and then have games again Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be hot this week as well. I just think Eastbourne perhaps will just have the edge in terms of sort of squad fitness, legs from the bench. If Cashman's injured, who is going to be that kind of playmaker for Worthing that's going to open them up? Do they then change and become a bit more sort of like workmanlike and try and sort of go a bit more, maybe a bit direct, or sort of like work on sort of set pieces, things like that? I don't know. I think if Eastbourne stick to their guns and play the way they've been playing, I think they might just have too much for Worthing. So I think could end up being an Torquay final.
You follow me, James.
Get me a ticket, Barry.
Yeah, don't worry about that. You're in the VIP box, mate. Only because I'm going to take the mic when we beat you.
I'll sponsor the game.
And Nigel, who's your money on in this Sussex derby?
Well, again, it's difficult, isn't it? Local rivals. Obviously, Eastbourne have got that home record, but that's the difference in the playoffs. You know, it's not a 90-minute game. It could potentially have that extra time and penalties. And I think this is probably, if any game, if there's going to be one game, I'd say this would probably be the game that I could see going to extra time and penalties. Again, it depends on what Worthing side turn up. I mean, like we've said before, we've been down there and we beat them 2-0 early in the season, but then, you know, against other teams, they again look like well beaters. So I think it can go one of two ways, can't it? This eliminator game, you can get that momentum if you get sort of like a run of steam behind you, and you especially if you win a game in the last minute. Yes, it takes it out of you, but if you win a game in the last minute, it kind of G's you up and bounces you on, and you know you can go again. So probably for that way, I would say Worthing after extra time and penalties. I would say.
Ooh. Well, you've given me a decision here to make, haven't you?
I always like you, Scott. You know that.
Yeah, but Jacco, I've let him host for the night, haven't I?
Oh.
No bribery here. And their young fans are brilliant. You said nothing about their young fans. But I don't want to make you.
There are two key points for me. Firstly, the fact that I saw us beat Worthing twice, whereas we struggled against Eastbourne. I mean, so purely from a Truro point of view, I would see Eastbourne as a more difficult opponent. That home record is obviously there to be shot at, and it's one that you should feel confident with. You know, and probably the most important point is, you know, it's Barry's podcast, and he might switch us off if I vote against him. With that being said, we've managed to get ourselves into a final where we're not offending the largest fan base in Torquay, and we're not offending the owner of the podcast. So somewhere along the lines, I feel that's quite fitting. So over to Tom then. Torquay Eastbourne, if it is the final, and you know, I think after we're done, I'll go and put some money on the winner of this and see where we come out. Where do you see this heading then? Torquay versus Eastbourne. I'm assuming that's a tie that you would be comfortable with in front of your own fans.
Yeah. Again, I went to both the games in the season. Again, Eastbourne was quite early on into the season away. They dominated the first half hour, but we kind of grew into the game, and actually I thought we were rather unfortunate not to come away with 3 points there. And then in the home game at Plainmoor, they just, I don't know, it's tough because I don't want to say I felt like it was comfortable at times, but once we got the first goal and broke them down late on, we managed to get the second, and I can't recall James Hammond having too much to do in that game. But again, that's in the past. It's all down on this one game, and I back anyone. I back Torquay at home to anyone. So I think the crowds again, they're going to play a big part. Whoever if we do make it to the final, if it is us in the final at home, whoever comes down is going to bring a big crowd with them as well. So it'll be another fantastic atmosphere and great advert for National League South football if that is the case. But I think just home advantage, if it was at Eastbourne, like I said in the last recording, then I think it's a more difficult tie for us if that is the case. But I have to back Torquay at home. Just in front of 5,000-6,000, I back us.
Just as an aside, in the final, is the allocation different? Does it become more of a 50-50 split, or is it still?
No, I think it's 15% minimum across the board. So I think with our capacity, we have to offer at least 900 tickets.
Okay. Barry, how are you going to go about building a case to try and make the nicest man on this podcast cry then?
They made us all cry last week, so I mean, Christ. No, I think, in honesty, it's not the game I think it'll be, but it's not the game I want really either. I think Torquay are probably, for me, the one side that I look at somebody and I want them to whoever wins out of Boreham and Dorking tomorrow, I want one of them to do us a favour and take them out, really. And the smile on Tom's face just says that he knows that. But listen, it's one game of football. We've got 2 weeks to prepare. We'll know who we're playing. I just think that, it'll be a difficult game of football. But I'll go back to what I said earlier. If I said earlier about maybe the players freezing in front of the big crowd, and James had alluded to that in the pod last week. And I just think that if that is the final, it's a bigger game, right, to freeze out. And I think, again, Tom's done the history of the playoffs, for his pod, and the underdogs do all right. So actually, I don't fear coming down as an underdog. I don't fear that. I think I know Adam's philosophy is I want to win a game of football. So, and again, I wasn't there, but Tom was. But when we went 1-0 down, apparently we probably went for it a little bit more, and so we're going to leave them holes. So to me, a 2-0 loss is, you might as well lose 10-0. But, it's just one of them games. I think it's a one-off game of football. Listen, we will bring down some. Well, I'm under no illusions we'd sell them tickets and more. Our crowds have picked up recently since the fact of we could win the league. I mean, to get almost double our normal crowd this week, when we could win the league, but we weren't going to after the Worthing game. And it's noisy when the boys get down there, when we get the youngsters down there and that, and I just think that, like I say, Torquay's not the game I want. I'd rather have Dorking at home. I think that's an easier game for us. But I wouldn't be frightened about going to Torquay. And do you know what? I mean, go back and listen to some of Adam's interviews as a manager, and I think the philosophy of the club is, it's a game of football, right? If we don't win it, no one's going to die. We just go out next year and we make it better next year, and we'll win the league next year. And that's his attitude. And the fact that he wants to sort a new contract out now before the playoffs have sorted, shows that he's part of that project as well. And we've been very lucky with Simon coming in 2 years ago. He wants to make the players a brand. He wants to give them something to do after they've done their football. And Alan Williams has been about football for a while, so he knows what he's doing. And I just think the club's going in the right way. Torquay away, I don't really want it, but it wouldn't frighten me. It wouldn't frighten me going down there.
Jacco, do you think you're going to lose your Sussex derby next season?
No, I don't think we will, unless the Torquay manager
Well, they'll be playing Horsham anyway, Scott. So they'll be all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me. Unless the Torquay manager made a mistake when we played Torquay in the trophy, he changed his team around and we absolutely bossed him over the pitch. I don't think I can see Torquay winning it. You know, I think for men, they're better than Eastbourne, and I think if they play at home, my money would be on Torquay. However, saying that, the bookies got Eastbourne the favourite.
No pressure then.
Yeah, but you know, I think on the day Torquay will pip it.
Nigel, last few words from you. Where do you see this one going?
Yeah, I just think it'd be, if it was a Torquay Eastbourne final, I just think Torquay would do it. I think, you know, that crowd's going to have such a bearing on it, and as I say, it can go the other way and the extra pressure. But having come through one game against, you know, a tough opponent in Boreham or Dorking, I just think they're gonna prevail. You know, to have gotten so close. I mean, they haven't really been top since the turn of the year, so you know they've sort of lost a little bit of ground and a little bit of momentum sort of in January, but they just keep picking up those results, and that 1-0, they just run off those 1-0s, 1-0, 1-0s, and it, you know, that shows a sort of grittiness and determination that they're hard to score against, and they just produce that one moment of quality that's going to make the difference. So whether that's going to be, you know, 1-0, 2-1, I just think they're shaded, and that crowd will get them over the line.
Okay. Right, we're on the brink then, Barry. James, do you want to land the killer blow? Can you make a case for Eastbourne?
I think Torquay. I think if it went to there, Torquay would probably win it. I think they probably would win it. Yeah, I think the momentum and the kind of the semi would then. I know it would be still like almost 2 weeks, 10 days away from the final, but I think they would just bounce into that. The place would be absolutely bouncing, and I think they would probably do enough to win it. And it might not be a pretty game. It could end up just being a 1-0. You know, the two that we've had against Torquay were real. They weren't brilliantly sort of eye-catching games, but especially the one at our place. But Torquay got that job done and stayed in the game, and then got that late winner from a set piece. And you could see them doing something similar. It wouldn't perhaps be a classic, but I think it would probably be enough to get the team in second place, the promotion up into the National League.
That's
Plus,
what I need you to do.
Tom's a really nice fella, so I can't upset
That's
him.
what I need you to do us a favour, James, when you go down.
Sorry.
And Harry, are you going to make it a clean sweep?
Yeah, I've got Torquay as well. When we've played Eastbourne, they've been a good side. Just apart from the game in the league, just the 3 other games we were just much better than them. But with Torquay, it was a bit more even, and Torquay impressed me more than Eastbourne did. So based on that, I've gone Torquay, especially with the fans as well. We'll just definitely push them over the line.
Yeah, remember the underdog always wins the final, though. So I'm enjoying you guys all going for Torquay.
Well, it was nice to be on your podcast, Barry. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Tom's off to throw his laptop out the window.
Yeah.
Tom's going to go and buy a new laptop.
Despite enjoying winding a few Torquay fans up on the socials, I would have to say that I think I could see Torquay prevailing, which is a shame because I would have liked to have picked up a couple of your better players, and you know I think it's time for Cody Cook to come home really. But bringing this to a close, thank you so much, Barry, for having us on again. I wish everyone here the best of luck through the next couple of weeks. I'm sure you want us to say smash a like, Barry, subscribe to the channel, comments, who's going to win all this, who's made the biggest fool of themselves, you know, point out any mistakes. But thank you so much for your time, Barry. It's been fantastic. And
no, thank you. Thank you, guys. And obviously, you know, I mean, if you're all up for it, we'll do something before the final or whatever, and we can sort of go over our predictions and see where we we've all made ourselves look silly, you know, when it's a final that Boreham would against Maidstone, and we're like,
shows how much
the
we
two
know
we
about
eliminated in
football.
the first game.
Yeah, well done, everyone.
Thanks, guys, for being on.